Okay, welcome to our fifth webinar of the Follower City Training Mission in Triangulum. Today with three very interesting presentations, and without further ado, I would like to hand over to Professor Bauke de Vries from the Technical University of Eindhoven, who is going to lead through this session. Please, Bauke.
Yeah, welcome. Webinar on citizen engagement and living labs. Like Alex mentioned, we have three very interesting presentations. The first one by May Andriessen from Stavanger. Title is Practical Examples on e-bus projects and others. The second one is Marieke van den Wijgaard from Woonbedrijf in Eindhoven. Her title is Taking Ownership in Renovation Your Own Home. And the third one is by Mike Letskus from Fraunhofer, and the title is Citizen Engagement, Possibilities and Overview. So I'm looking forward for the first presentation, so I would like to give the floor to May Andriessen from Stavanger.
Thank you. So what we will do is we will give a short presentation on the communication and citizens integration activities that we have done here in Stavanger as part of the Triangulum. In the project agreement for Stavanger, there are a special task which is reserved for communication and citizens integration. So in the project agreement, there is very clear a subtask on what we have to do on communication. And the subtask, as they are shown here on the slide, is that we are to make a communication plan, we are to present the communication tools, events, study tours, and we have also a special responsibility on getting local media attention for the Triangulum project. Of course, all of these activities are linked to the deliverables from the involved 5 local partners in Stavanger. So what we have done then is that we have established a communication group from the 5 local partners. So one communication person from each of the 5 local partners are in this group. And this group is then shared by Greater Stavanger. So we are the responsible partners, but we do have the involvement of all the local partners. And actually, we think that this is one of the key to our success. This is maybe the main reason why we have been able to do the activities that we have done. The first thing we did was that we have made a communication plan. And the communication plan is very practical. We have together, all the 5 local partners, said what are we going to do, which video clips are we going to make related to the local deliverables that the project is responsible for in Stavanger. So I'm just showing the communication plan. This is a plan which was made, of course, at the very start of the project, but it is revised on a regular basis. So we revise it at least. We have meetings in a communication group maybe once every month. Sometimes it can go 2 months, but most of the time there is a monthly meeting in the communication group, and at every meeting we go through the communication plan and we update it with new activities. We fill in when we have done what we have agreed to do, and then we add on new activities as we go along. So for the first subtask, it's actually this communication plan. So together with the communication group and the communication plan, I think that we have made kind of the foundation for the work and the success here in Stavanger. Then to the practical thing for what we actually have done. of course, we had to make some information, a small roll-up. We have made leaflets, which is based on the general Triangulum leaflets, but it's on what is going to happen in Stavanger. So it's in our local language. It's very short, very to the point, and we hand it out wherever there are events or activities that we think this would be interesting for. We also made roll-ups, of course, which we use when there are local conferences and so on. We make sure that we have this roll-up and the leaflets available. That was the first thing we did. Then the second thing we have done is that for the buses, one deliverable for our county was that there were going to be introduced 3 battery buses, electrical buses, which were new, and they were going to be into the ordinary bus transport system in the city. So what we decided then was that before the buses were delivered just very late last year. So long before the buses arrived here in Stavanger from China, where they are produced, we decided that we needed to see if we can do some involvement of the citizens. And what we did was that we engaged 3 high schools. So students at 3 high schools were asked to make design proposals for the buses. And when this was kicked off, the competition, the design competition, we have the county mayor, and we made a small movie of it. This is just what you see now is just a picture of the movie. All movies are, of course, at the M desk. For if you want to see them later, they are available at the M desk. And of course, we have also shared them on the 5 local partners homepage. They are on the Triangulum YouTube channel, and also on the locally. The design competition was very successful. There was 110 suggestions for the design of the bus. And what we did was that when we had a design, we engaged a local newspaper, and they came into the project, and we had a voting through a local newspaper link. So they could link, and they can go in and see for not all the 110. There was a jury, and they selected I think it was maybe 5, 10, 6 best designs. And then people could go in and vote through this link in the local newspaper. And there was a lot of interest. There was, like you see, 2,100 votes. And the winner was one student, of course, and this design which you see here is the winner design, and that was put on all the 3 buses. 3 buses. There are 5 L buses in Stavanger, but the 3 is 3 buses, and the 5 electrical buses in Stavanger is actually the only 5 in Norway, but 3 of them are through the Triangulum project. So when the design was on the buses, we decided, and I will just go back quickly, we decided to have revealing of the buses with the new design at the marketplace in downtown Stavanger. So this was on a Saturday morning or late morning, and there was a lot of people who came to see the buses, and we had balloons, and we had some handouts, and it doesn't show, this picture seems without people, but there were a lot of people there. You will see it later. It was really a big success. So we think that it was a good way of creating knowledge in the city of what was happening. Then this was for the buses was the responsibility of the county. Then we had Lise, which is responsible for smart homes. So we made a movie, this is also just a picture of the movie, where we talked about what is the smart homes, what is happening, and what is what results do we want to get out of it. Okay. Do we seem to have some technical problem? Can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you perfectly fine, but we just lost the picture.
Lost the screen. Yeah.
You lost the screen.
Yeah. So on the
Is it back?
on the panel on the right side, just click the screen-shaped button again, and then it should be green.
We'll try.
If not, just a second. I will give you. I can push this.
Yep.
So I'm pushing this now, and and it's back.
Yeah, you okay?
Yes, please go on. Thank you.
Okay, yes. Because the point is that all of the four local partners made a movie on what they are doing. A short movie to be presented at social media. So we have talked about the buses. When we had a revealing of the winner design, we made a short movie, just a very simple movie, which we showed on social media. Then we did the same for the smart homes. The university did the same, where they made a short movie to say what are their deliverables, what are they doing in the Triangulum project. And last, we also made one from the smart energy, from the energy plant, which is the city's deliverable. That movie is ready, but there are some small editing before we will reveal it on social media. And the fact is that and we also made a cartoon for the whole project. One movie for each of the local partners on their deliverables. And then we made a cartoon, very short, to show the whole project in Stavanger, what we are doing.
1 minute.
1 minute. A little bit more than 1 minute, but 1 minute to show the main thing of the Triangulum project in Stavanger. And what we did was that this cartoon movie and also the film on the battery buses, we coordinated it so it was put out on YouTube and on Facebook at the same time for all the local partners. And we have reached a lot of people. The cartoon movies at that time, it was in a few days, it had reached more than 30,000 views in social media, meaning people who have seen more than 3 seconds of the film, and 80,000 people has been reached. Also, the film launching of the battery buses. Okay, also the film of the battery buses was seen by a lot of people.
Yeah, that is great. We are lost it again, but you can continue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is what we did on films. We have reached a lot of people. We think it's quite a good way of working. It's been involvement from everybody, and it reaches a lot of the inhabitants in Stavanger with what we have done. Then, in addition to films, we have also had communication events and study tours. So it started in 2016. We had a seminar called My Smart City, which was part of an innovation festival in Stavanger. We had a seminar where we talked about smart city in general, and the Triangulum project in particular was very well received. And then, of course, we have the biggest smart city event in the Nordics, started in 2016, and in 2017, the Nordic Edge Expo, we were one of the exhibitors in addition to the conference part. So this is Gerd, our local coordinator, showing from we had a small stand at the exhibition. And we also, at My Smart City and also at Nordic Edge, we have had study tours. So we have invited participants to come to the smart homes to see what has been done. And last week we had again the annual innovation festival, and we put in what we call Tour de Triangulum, and that was an event where we invited people to come to drive with the L buses, come to what is happening in the smart homes. Then we went to the university and they talked what they were doing. And lastly, we went to have a premiere of the last movie which we have made from the energy plant. So we think that was a very good way of doing it. There was 50 people who participated, and we will see if we will repeat this, because it was a very good way of reaching a lot of people and showing what is actually being done in Stavanger. Yeah, and then the last part is press contact and press releases for local press. We have been able to have a lot of attention in the local media, especially the first three picture here on the bottom of the slide. The one is for the smart city. This is from the seminar My Smart City. Then the second one is for the voting of the bus design, and then we also had a hackathon together with the city. So we think we have not listed all. Here is not listed all the times we have been in the local media, but there has been a very good attention in the local media. So I think that is actually the main activities what we have done. What we would like to say is that this having a communication group, having a concrete plan, agreeing on activities, making small movies to be shown on social media, having the seminars, being integrated into activity that is going on in the city. We think that has been some of the key to our success, being able to communicate. We have had a budget of about 40% of a position in Greater Stavanger who has been responsible for this, but the other partners has also contributes with participating in the events and in the communication group. And we also, of course, have some small resources for making this movie, but it's not a very high, expensive movie. It's a small, easy movies which we can have, which we can use on the social media. And all of these funds come from the EU budget. Yes, I think that's, if there are questions or anything, but that was what I wanted to.
Yeah, thank you very much for your presentation. I think it was very clear and with very nice examples. Of course, I have questions too, but I would like to postpone these for the discussions that we have later on. For now, we will move over to Marike for the next presentation, and if Alex will give Marike the rights to start her presentation, then I think we can move on.
Yes, so Marike, everything is set up. We can see your screen perfectly fine. We're ready to go.
Thank you. Now, good afternoon. To be clear, I'm working for the Social Housing Association in Eindhoven, Woonbedrijf. We rent affordable homes to people who need help to arrange their own housing. I'm the project manager of the renovation project, and of course a big part of our renovation project is citizen participation. In this project you also see the logo of KPN. I also will be giving some information about the process of private owners. This is their project, but we have in common that we both are going to use the tool WoonConnect. So that's why. Oh, now the interesting is, yes. I had the title, how can house owners and tenants be stimulated to take control and renovation of their own home and creating even a finer home to live in. We saw that people are not going to do that, sometimes not going to do that by themselves, especially for tenants. It's a different approach than they are used to. For private homeowners, you've seen that it's normal that they arrange their own home improvements. But they don't always know how to handle this. But for tenants, they are used that the Social Housing Association arranges the renovations and tells them when it's going to take place and what is going to take place. We as a housing association have a wish that tenants can take ownership of their home. So almost the same as private homeowners can do. But how can we change this mindset and give them, both home users, the tools to make those decisions for their own home? And this the first step we are taking in this direction. I think it can be much more, but we have to start somewhere and learn from it. Maybe this is one of the biggest questions for someone to participate in anything. I think anyone can see that for themselves. Why do you enter a web shop? Why do you go to a web page? There has to be something in it for you. So if you ask from a tenant's or homeowner's perspective, what's in it for me? Then maybe you can find out what stimulates someone else to do something, to make a move. We did some interviews with about 200 tenants, and different research also says that it can maybe be one of these motivations. And I think it's almost in this order. People want something to have more comfort in their home, and they want a lower energy bill, but that's also, okay, do I really have a lower energy bill, or do I have to invest a lot? So that's a more insecure part of it. And environment is most of the times the last reason to invest in their home for now. We see that it is changing a bit, but it's not changing yet. To start this and to see what's in it for me, we noticed that we wanted to make a customer journey. It's more from the customer's perspective, and what do we need to do to give them the best experience to take control in the renovation of their home. What tools do they need to take that ownership? We noticed that this journey, we learn from each other, the KPN part, the private homeowners part, and we with the tenants, that it's a different journey for both of them. But we use in both journeys WoonConnect as a decision-making tool to give insight in the possibilities and consequences of everything they choose. We also used WoonConnect for those first interviews to let them see, this is your 3D model of your house. You can do this and that with it. You can see what energy consumption you have. And from the first interviews, we noticed that the layout, the interface of WoonConnect wasn't really, you didn't see, wow, I want to be here. And so we WoonConnect changed the landing page, and this is much more easygoing, much more, you can see where you can click on what is useless, what you want to do with it, what's useful. So that's one of the first adjustments from experience we learned with speaking to our tenants. Maybe the most important thing we know is for someone to give them a good experience is to learn who they are. So who are our tenants now? And from those interviews we noticed we can make two groups. You have the type of tenants who don't want the burden of a process of taking ownership. They maybe aren't digital, or they expect this just from the social housing association. We pay rent, so please take care of it. Or sometimes our tenants have enough balls to keep in the air, and this is another ball, and that's too much for them. And we have a tenant who wants to take control. You see that they already doing investments in their own rental home. They want to be heard. They want to be personal adjustments. And that is the first draft you see here. It's normally in Dutch. I tried to translate it, so I hope I don't make any mistake. In identifying those two characteristics of the active tenant, the more passive tenant, and what gains and pains there are in it for them. Why would you want to do this? This is much more difficult for private owners because it's a wide variety of people. Their tenants are also, but it's not so easy to get to know them as homeowner and tenants. are knowing each other. We never met them. So we made two different customer journeys. The first one I'm going to see is the one for tenants, and it's a really large picture. For some people who went to the learning sessions last Tuesday, they saw it in a larger scale. It's all in Dutch, so you don't have to read it. But there are two approaches for the for those two types of tenants. The first one above, I don't know if you see my pointer, is for one of those types, and the other one is for the other one. But the starting point is the same for both of them. Yes, it's going to work. They all receive from us a letter to explain the project and ask to take the first step, because in taking ownership is also activating people. When they want a renovation in the near future, please call us, please email us, please contact us. And we start with an intake. And during this intake, we can both decide, the tenant and us, which line of customer journey is best suited for that tenant. And for this intake, they also receive extra information and a checklist, so they can really prepare themselves for that intake interview. But the most important is contact us instead of telling we are contacting the tenants and telling them when we are coming to renovate your home. So that's the difference in the approach. We starting this after the summer, so that's when we learn most of it, and I hope to come back to you with it. But the most important thing is, maybe when you're 92 or pregnant, or you want to start renovating in 3 years, that's okay. You don't have to be calling us the first moment you have received that letter. Now, and after you receive the letter, we go to the second part. They can visit the showroom. They can choose in WoonConnect all the possibilities. They can see the consequences of those possibilities. And they can make the choices. And when they made that choices definite, they can choose a starting date of the renovation. And that's on a weekly basis. So they can really see in week 26, I want to start my renovation. And then I will note, okay, then it's finished in week 27, for example. After that, they receive a specific planning information, and then the renovation starts. For private owners, it's completely different, because you don't know them, and you first have to make sure that they log in. Tenants see that they can have an improvement of their home without no or little increase of their rent. That's a good trigger to get onto the website. For private owners, it's differently. They have to invest for themselves. What's in it for them is then the big question again. Now in WoonConnect, you can see the 3D model of your own home. That's fun. They can adjust it according to their real situation. If you have purple windows, then you can make them purple. If you have white windows, make them white again. And they can play with their energy consumption. It's an energy buddy, and see what they have on influence on their energy consumption. But the first step is that they get acquainted and they trust it. They trust the page. So the municipality has sent the homeowners a letter with explanation and a login code. And very important, that's here the first step. And they want you to log in for the first time. When you have a home, the homeowners, you have a lot of steps that they can fall out of the journey because they're not interested anymore. And how can you stimulate them that they log in for the first time, come back another time, and to make choices? The bottom two lines of the customer journey are the obstacles which you can encounter, and maybe the interventions which we can take to get those people back again. So if they don't get it, then you have to maybe go home and give an instruction. if they don't have a computer, maybe you go there with a laptop and help them. So you have to make those interventions again. The journeys are an ongoing process. Oh, sorry, I'm back. Are an ongoing process, and we are adapting them as we learn and go along. So in 3 months or 5 months or 6 months, we probably have adapted those customer journeys according to what we learned from the first interviews, from feedback we get. And we hope to improve them and learn from them and share that learning with you all again. We will keep you informed. Thank you very much.
Marieke, thank you
Yes.
for your presentation. Yeah, so what I just answered to the previous presenter applies also to you. Have all questions, please note them, and then we will come back to them, to these questions in this discussion at the end. Now I would like to continue with the third presentation by Mike Letskus. Mike, please take the floor.
Take 1 second. Mike, we cannot hear you yet. Please unmute yourself and start the presentation. Very well. We can now. We can now.
Sorry, I had.
Oh, we can see your screen. We can.
Here. Can you hear me now?
Perfectly fine. We can see it and hear you perfectly.
So also welcome from my side to the webinar number 5 on citizen engagement in living labs. For the ones who came a bit later, my name is Mike Letskus. I'm an architect and urban planner here at Fraunhofer IAO, and I'm coordinator of a living lab in south of Germany. Actually, it's 2 living labs combined, one in Stuttgart, one in Herrenberg. And I will give you a little theoretical overview why we do the living labs and talk a little bit about my project. Like I said, first, just a little explanation. What is the context of living labs? What are living labs and why do we need them? Then I'm going to talk a little bit about these 2 practical examples and finish with the factors of success that you will see is very important for a living lab to define what are the factors of success, what makes a living lab successful. I'm going to start with a quote. The 19th century was a century of empires, the 20th century was a century of nation states, and now we are entering a century century of the cities. And this is a quote from a former mayor of Denver. As you can see, I put a little German lessons within my presentations. The Bürgermeister is the city mayor. Please keep that in mind. I will ask this later again. What I want to say with this, cities will have a new role in the century. Well, first of all, of course, the transformation of society will happen in the cities because most of us are living in the cities, and they will be strong drivers of change. So a lot of power will lie in the cities in the future. What's going to happen to the cities? What are the mega trends or transformations that will affect the city of tomorrow? That will affect the way we perceive city, the way we use urban space, and thus the way we have to plan urban space. I'm not going to go very deep into these mega trends. I think for all of you they are obvious, and most of you are working in this field, but I just want to mention a few. Meaning of these global trends for cities, as you can see on the left, I mean, business with cities is going to be the new thing instead of business in cities. We have to deal with completely new energy systems combined with new mobility solutions that will lead to complete new infrastructure. We'll have a convergence of the infrastructure. We'll have a lot of connected solutions that will also imply a new way of planning the infrastructure. So these are a lot of topics where right now we can only say flexibility and adaptation are going to be the keywords to the cities of the future. But the big question is, how do we do it? How do we first understand these global forces and their impact on our cities? And how do we plan sustainable urban environments under these influences? So one approach might be the living lab. This approach can only be understood with the importance of transformation processes in the field of sustainability research. In this field, the understanding of socio-technological transformation processes is becoming more and more the key role. Why is this the case? Maybe to say it in Bill Clinton's words, it's the complexity, stupid. The variety of these causal linking patterns functioning or acting on these social transformations are the formative characters of these processes. The interaction of these forces is something that we don't yet fully understand. So the question is, how do we put civil society, political and economical actors in a position to improve and to actively promote the requirements for such sustainable change? I think we're far away from really being able to answer this question yet. What we know is that we need a disciplinary research approach to design these transformation processes that are oriented on sustainability. Why is that? Well, we have to interconnect not only system knowledge, but also target knowledge, context and actor-specific knowledge. And the classical methods of observation and modeling we have, they're simply just limited to understand these processes. So the question is, I should say, this explains a little bit this experimental turn that we can see in the field of social and economic science, and this has a tremendous effect on the concrete scientific praxis. So we go from observing and generating system knowledge from observation to a science approach that accompanies these processes actively to understand them better. And in this, the scientist becomes part of his own research, which might be a critic on this approach, because as soon as I enter my lab, my experiment, I'm part of it, so I'm influencing it a lot. But by now, this is one of the best approaches that we have. So maybe we try a definition of living labs, a short one. From my view, from our project, the living lab is a research concept. It is user-centered, open innovation ecosystem, often operating in a territorial context. In our case, a city, often a city. In the city, we have different levels. We can have our city lab on a district level, or, as we've seen one example, on the building level. But we can also have it on the complete city or metropolitan area level. It's also integrating concurrent research and innovation processes with a public-private people partnership, as we say it. And it is based on a systematic user co-creation approach, integrating research and innovation processes. These are integrated through the co-creation, exploration, experimentation, evaluation of innovative ideas, of scenarios, of new concepts, of related technology artifacts in a real-life use case. This is an important point. Such use cases involve user communities not only as observed subjects, but also as a source of creation. So, what do living labs do? I would say the living lab creates a context for real-time experiments that help us to improve the knowledge about these processes and give us an orientation to these processes and to initiate these processes. So the City Lab kind of jumps between knowledge production and knowledge applications at the same time between situational boundary conditions and controlled boundary conditions. So this is really a new approach and sometimes really hard to say where you're working in. Is it the field observation? Is it an implementation, technical or ecological? Is it really an experiment? I think it's really the combination of all of it. The more you combine these aspects, the better the results are that you get. One thing I want to say here is that we have to understand not all the circumstances are the same, not all the challenges are the same, our boundaries are different, so also every living lab is different. Here's just a quick overview of some living labs in Europe, for sure not all of them. You see some of them, they have really specific topics, some are really widespread. The question here is, how do we learn from each other? How can we learn from other city labs? Knowing that it's not going to work to implement the same solution or the same approach to another city, to another context. So this is also something that we have to discuss within the project, because the goal should be that we really connect the knowledge that we gain from the living labs, but we have to find a way to transform them to each context that we are in. So now I jump to the living lab I'm coordinating right now in Stuttgart and Herrenberg. It's called Stadtquartier 4.0. It's Urban District 4.0. What is the basic project idea? Our central research question is, how can we use the potential of digitalization for planning and decision-making processes on the urban district level and early-stage citizen participation? Why? To optimize, or for what? To optimize sustainable and future-oriented development of urban districts. Our approach is the development and testing of digital planning and participation formats, as well as visualization tools along the planning phases of specific urban development projects. So this is a research project funded by the Ministry of Culture from our state here. 2 cities were from the beginning involved, not with money, they don't receive money, they actually have to give us capacity and data and everything we need, which is also a problem, but we're going to talk about this later. And both cities should give us a specific urban development project that we then work on, where we can test our new formats and visualization or simulation tools. So in Herrenberg, it's the integrated mobility development concept that they're starting for the whole city. The background is probably with most of the cities, they have a huge, I wouldn't say mobility problem, but traffic problem in the city center. So they are thinking about new mobilities and new concepts that would take the cars out of the center. In Stuttgart, we have the climate-friendly development master plan for a part of Stuttgart. Stuttgart in this term is a bit specific from the climate, because we don't have much airflow in the city, so, and it's a really, really dense city, so we have these heat island effects in the summer, and the air doesn't really take out all the bad stuff, the dirty air. So the aim is to develop planning guidelines to support the city administration with the realization of complex solution strategies for sustainable and future-oriented districts, with early-stage participation of relevant stakeholders. So we want to make planning great again. We say a little bit, which means we see the way they plan is they don't know how to plan. They don't know how to deal with these topics. The planning processes take so long, are so inefficient, costly. Also, the participation project processes are very costly, inefficient. So what we want to do is see where are the problems, make it more efficient with the tools that we use. Just a quick overview how this Living Lab is built up. We have a project team which consists of 4 institutes of the University of Stuttgart, then we have the Fraunhofer IRO, and a communication office that is going to take a bit of part of the participation and communication parts. Then we have the city administration working with us. There we have many departments of the city that work with us, and then we have the partners and stakeholders that are non-profitable or any organization that fits the topic. Can also be startups, can also be just organizations from like civil organizations. And we have a steering committee that kind of controls us, is maybe the wrong word, but gives us new approach. Because what we see, if you go into such a city lab, you dive into the city lab, into your topic, sometimes you need someone from outside to tell you if you're going into the right direction, or where you can improve yourself, or in which direction maybe you should change your route. The basic project idea is that we test alternative planning and participation processes with a flexible framework at the intersection of citizens, stakeholder, administration, and municipal council. So this is what we saw mostly where the problems lie, really at this intersection of the different groups. And we kind of want to make this more flexible with our digital tools. We're also testing analog, but the focus is on digital tools to get a bit more in a proactive planning instead of just reacting to problems that we have. The vision is a bit from a linear experts planning process that we have right now to integrated experts planning system. So that means we see the citizen as experts of their space, of the space they use, and how can we get this knowledge? How can we implement this knowledge already in the planning process? Then obviously we have stakeholders, startups, industry that have solutions for problems that we have in the city. Doesn't it make sense to involve solution-making actors in this process on an early stage? Because what we think is that transformation for sustainable development is an alternative, integrated, demand-oriented, holistic, transparent, and understandable process. And with this, we have to get away from this linear experts sitting in their administration and planning, sometimes really aside from what is demanded, which led, in our experience in the past, to the wish of many citizens to actually participate more in the processes. So this, for example, is one of these tools that we are testing, or visualization tools. What you see here is a virtual reality cave. It's a complete room with screens where you enter with a 3D glass, and we can put you into any virtual reality. So, for example, we can put the model of Stuttgart in it. On the left, you see the model of the city. On the right, you see a planning table. For example, now we can take a district where we want to build a new tower. But we have the problem that we have air flowing through this district, and we don't know if the tower maybe disturbs the airflow. So we can put the tower on the planning table and put them on different positions, and on the virtual reality on the screen, we can make a simulation of airflow. And it's interconnected with the planning table, so wherever we put the tower on the planning table, the simulation adapts to it. So by this, we can simulate the perfect position for this tower. So a tool like this would help first the planners to really find the right position, for example. But it would also give us a complete different standing, if we have to, if we go into a participation process with the public and say, hey, we want to build a new tower and we build it here. And why do we build it here? Isn't there other possibilities, which are often the questions in these open processes? So with this, we can really say we have the facts that this is the best solution. It also works obviously just for visualization, where we say we want to build something new, and people have the fear that it's going to be too big, or it's not going to fit in the city or anything else. So with these tools, and for example, we are testing here something like this in a 3D cinema. So we would take 200 people into a cinema, and with a TED voting, for example, we can show varieties, and they could vote for the varieties, or we could show that the planning has a positive and not a negative effect. So again, this helps us with the planning, but also with the communication with the people. So a little bit about the two topics. So it's both going to be in both living labs, going to be real experiments on a district level. For example, car-free day, or at one street we're going to plant a lot of trees and measure the temperature and see if this has any effect. In Stuttgart we're going to have a bottom-up approach. So there is already a plan, and now with the people we discuss how can we implement the solutions from the plan and help the people and develop also solutions with the people. So it's a co-development of spatial scenarios and guiding principles for climate-friendly district. Then we will translate these scenarios into new spatial typologies and parameters. For example, the road of the future is maybe going to be different. We don't need parking space. We maybe have different materials. We have more trees. Maybe we just have one space that we share all. So there's not going to be street for cars, way for pedestrians. And then we're going to visualize these scenarios and guiding principles. Because what we see is, one thing is if you define verbally where your city should go, should be sustainable, should be future-oriented, all these words, all these buzzwords. Everyone would say, yes, we do it, and these visions you find in every city the same. The thing is, how does it really look like? How do these visions look like? This is how our brain works, we have to visualize, we have to see things that we can really, well, first all mean the same and get to it. So the simulation of the effect of different options is something, of versions, like I said, airflow, pollutant dispersion, so we try. And then we have the co-development of realization strategies with citizens and stakeholders. In Herrenberg, it's a little bit different. We have a top-down approach. We work first with the city, use the same principle and the same tools. We have a co-development of new spatial scenarios, of guiding principles for future-oriented mobility concepts. We translate them into scenarios, do the visualization, simulate all the effects, and have then a co-development of these concepts with citizens, administration, and planners. So here we try to give the city more, or the administration, more power, more power in their planning, more knowledge, more certainty. This is what I was looking for. Okay, now the success factors that we kind of developed from our experience. I organized them a bit in different topics. So space, living labs as a spatial format. You have to understand we are working in a space, so we have to define the space. It has to be a functional context of urban space, representative for the challenges of the urban area. It should be a central project, or we need a central area of transformation, defined space in that we work in. We should combine business, living, infrastructure, and we should have a local contact point with the workshop spaces and showcases that people can go and see from where on we work, where we can invite people, where we present ourselves to the public. From the organization, what we see, it's really good to have a spin-off of the organizational unit out of the administration and a new branding for the organizational unit. Concerning the visions, have a vision with incentive, or the system of incentives. Give your visions a time frame. For example, we have Stuttgart as a location 2020, 2025, 2030. Innovation. Have a high degree of innovation that you implement. The functional context of the urban space, representative for challenges of the urban area. About the communication, high visibility and communication strategy is probably the key, and combine this with events and activities. We show you there. Most of the people, they don't know what living labs are, what they're doing, what the potential of this is. So it's really, really important to communicate and go outside with your project. Project-wise, have a clear grouping or bundling of topics, a precise objective or an action field, a precise project structure. Personal project sponsorship is also something that is not too bad, either if it's in the city or industry or the state, some ministries. The organizational unit as a neutral mediator, facilitator, as you want, between the players, and oriented really strong towards the citizen. Have rules for the game. Have the players encounter on eye level. Have precise rules for companies, startups, for everyone you put into the project as a partner. And try to combine the vision of your living lab, or try to embed it in the regional vision and strategy of the space that you're working in, if there is one. If not, there's a good chance to develop one through the living lab. Others, what we see as a focus on startups is really good. Obviously, it's always easier to work with a startup than with a big firm or company. We say bigger is better, aim high. It's no problem if you don't succeed with all the aims. We see it as a laboratory where we do experiments. No one says that every experiment has to work right away. So bigger is better, aim high, and the synergies between the living labs. This is something where I said before, we have many living labs, and we've tried here in Stuttgart to find synergies. It's really difficult, but I mean, it's a new format, it's a new way of, it's a new approach. So this is a question that will follow us over the next years, decade, I don't know, to see how can we find the synergies between these living labs. This is just a checkup list. I'm not going to go to detail into it. If anyone wants this, I can obviously provide this for everyone. We developed this just for us to see, to always ask ourselves, where do we stand? Do we still have, are we still on the right track? And are we fulfilling the basic characteristics that we defined at the beginning? So maybe I just want to end with some rules that we get out of this for city plan. What we don't know, we cannot want. So develop new models and visions of the future. We harvest what we sow. So research and development of the right technology. What we don't design flexible won't be sustainable. Implementing new and flexible infrastructures. What we don't try, we can't evaluate. So cities as living labs is a big term, so maybe we can discuss this later. Doesn't it make sense to see the whole city as a living lab and not only partially? And what we don't develop with the citizens won't be accepted. So new forms of participation are needed. And I'm going to end with a quote: "It's not the strongest of the cities, nor the most intelligent that survives. It is the one most adaptable to change." So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike, for your presentation. It was a nice academic view on living labs, and I think the other members of the Triangulum project will have recognized quite a few topics that you addressed. So the next point on the agenda is the discussion. Attendees can use the chat box to enter their questions to all of the presenters. Yeah, while waiting, I suggest that I kick off the discussion. Yeah, of course, I listened to all three presentations, and yeah, a question that I would like to ask all of you. Yeah, you developed, let's say, means, techniques to communicate with the people, to approach the citizens, and of course I see what you are aiming at, but still I would like to ask what would happen, what if you would not have used these media, if you would not have access to these tools, would have the project completely failed? Would you have done differently? Because now I've seen all nice media and tools, but yeah, the question is, of course, how effective was it, and what would have happened if we would not have had access to these media and these tools? Maybe the first presenter, May Andreessen, could start answering to this kickoff question.
So May had to leave, and I will take care of the questions. I'm Kathleen from Stavanger. I think if you would not have all this media, you would communicate with the media that is available. So I think if you have this, if you think together about the way you want to communicate, you always find a solution on how you can communicate with the tools you have. So I'm not sure if this is really...
yeah, of course, you will always do what's possible, but yeah, do you have any idea on how effective your videos, your leaflets were? Was it more a marketing strategy, or were you also really trying to achieve certain preset goals?
Well, the preset goals were to reach the common people in Stavanger that aren't aware of the Triangulum project, and I think that worked really well, because those, especially the cartoon movie, which was launched on Facebook by all the partners at the same moment, it immediately got a lot of clicks, and after that we have more people in Stavanger were aware of the whole project. And I think also one of the powerful tools we had is the buses. They drive around with the Triangulum logo and with the EU logo, and every time they drive through the city, people can see it and they will look it up. And we noticed more awareness of our projects. The other thing is the Triangulum tour we did. With driving through the city with the people that were in this bus. They could ask the questions to the university people or to the Lyse people, the energy company, and you could hear that they were aware of what the project is doing, and the questions they asked is what kind of influence this would have in the future for the city as a whole. So I think media and trying to reach out to the normal people with events you organize, they are quite effective.
Okay, okay. Yeah, one of the in the chat box, also one of the attendees asks if these effects were measurable, but I think you already answered this to a certain extent. So maybe, yeah, Marike, you also can shortly react on this. Can you say what the effect is of your approach, and what would have happened if you would not have the WoonConnect tool available?
The effect we have to find out yet, but if we didn't have the WoonConnect tool, we would give them information on paper choice forms, paper information. I think the best thing we would miss out on is the playing with the energy buddy that's available in the WoonConnect tool. We hope that raises awareness with the families on their energy consumption. So what can they do themselves to reduce the energy bill? For example, I always take the same example, if your daughter is showering for 30 minutes and you can see, okay, now you're showering for 10 minutes, you can see what it does to your energy bill in the energy buddy, and you can have the conversation about it, because we can say, okay, you have to use less energy, but if you find it out for yourself, then it will be more effective. So this is the biggest thing we would miss if we didn't have the tool. The rest could be available on paper or personal talks.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, maybe Mike, there are also a few questions addressed to you. Did you read them in the chat box, and can you maybe pick up on one of these?
Yes, I read them, and of course I can pick up on them. Well, I'm going to start on the top. Who created the virtual reality cave for citizen participation? We have two caves, a big one and a small one, I would put it. The small one is here in our institute, was developed by us. The first mock-up, I would say, already 20 years ago, where probably most of also the people in the field haven't even heard of it. By then it was obviously really expensive. Now it's getting more and more reasonable. Our bigger cave is standing here in our neighbors, which is the computing center of the University of Stuttgart. They have one of the biggest computers in Europe standing there. So the simulation I was talking about, for example, we have the planning table and we can move any object, and in the simulation they would adapt the moving and the simulation to it. We do this in the cave of the computing center because, well, first it's bigger and stronger. Our computers don't have yet the power to do the simulation, so we only do the visualization, and our neighbors, they do the simulation. So if you want more information, more detailed information about that, obviously I can give it to you. The second question was, how was the participation rate of the digital tools? Well, I have to say we're in the middle of the process, so I cannot definitely answer this question yet. What I can say, for example, is we tried, just as a little test, not really representative, but we tried an augmented reality tool, where people could go to a certain spot in the city and they were planning a new suburb, and you could actually stand there and see, because one question was, if they built a new suburb there, do we still have the view, wonderful view from certain points to the landscape? So you could go there with your tablet or your phone, and through an app download this application, and you could see, take a look on the landscape as it is now, and you can see, okay, this is how the city or the buildings are going to look like, and you can see now it's not going to block my view to the landscape. So with this, obviously we got a bigger rate, because if you compare it to a normal participation event where you have maybe 200 people, mostly elder than 60. There we had within 1 week, I think 1,500, mostly kids, younger people, testing this format. But it's hard to say yet because obviously we promoted it, and this is a technology that kids, for them it's fun, it's nice to use, so it's hard to combine. We cannot say yet how big the rate really is. So the next question was, well, there are so many.
Yeah, I think you addressed most of it, Mike. Yeah, thanks. Maybe Kathleen, I still see a few questions addressed to you. I hope you had the opportunity to read them. Maybe you can pick up on one of these.
Yeah, so the one of Oreo, I would definitely recommend it to use these kind of communication tools beyond the Triangulum project, because I think they're very effective. So yes, and one of the questions was, did we need city administration, what was it? Participate, so the city administration as well. Did we need their, how do you say that? Let's see where the question was. But we didn't need their approval because this was a Triangulum movie. It was about a cartoon. It was a Triangulum tool, and one of the participants of all our partners is in the communication group, so also one of the city administration, and everyone in that communication group has a mandate to do whatever they think is best for the project. So that was enough. We didn't need a different approval from the city administration.
Okay. Then Marika from Sabadell, I read a question here, more detailed question about the woonbedrijf project. Have you read it? And so they're asking, how do you follow up with the residents on the implementation of the agreed renovation measures? What's the criteria used to choose the renovation? Can you maybe give a bit more detail?
Yes, of course. I will go into the tenants more because I know more about that. The criteria of the used renovation measures are depending on the homes and for now on what maintenance they needed or what improvements are really easy to take on, to incorporate in the project. For private owners, it's a wide scale of measures. It can be from painting your front door to insulating your roof to all you can imagine. The success rate we have still yet to encounter. I know from the private owners, they now send a letter to 300 private owners, and I thought it was about 25% that logged in for the first time, and they have to try to get them back to that website and see the options. And the most important thing is that if they have other contractors than we do at the renovation part for tenants, the most important thing is that they give a really good follow-up, because you can say bad news is also marketing, but no, you need good follow-up, accurate, friendly. So I think that's really important because it's a trust issue. For us, after the implementation and the agreed renovations for tenants, it's maybe really easy because we are always, they know where to find us and we know where they are. So after that, they have a first, we call it, it's also an intake, but a technical intake. So we can measure all their home and see if it's all possible in their home, if they, what they have to do, what we have to do. And before the renovation starts, someone comes again Okay, do you need help with anything? And then we start the renovation. For private owner, that's a process still has to be developed. Does it answer your question, Oriol? Or Joe?
I think so, Marieke. Thanks for your...
Thank you, Marieke.
Okay. Yeah, I think most questions were addressed. So if I missed something, then please speak up at this moment, because yeah, the presenters are still there and ready to take your questions. Anyone who would like to raise a question?
Yes, maybe the question I put to Mike on the list.
Okay.
On the
Yeah,
chat.
I was just trying to write, but now it's good. I ask it. I answer like this. The question: what is this incentive for citizens, companies, universities to participate in the Living Lab? Well, I would say, especially in our Living Lab, the incentive for citizens is to make the demands heard. What we see often, and what is also the critics of a lot of citizens, that they say, all these projects that you as a city are doing, they are not fulfilling our demands, what we need. They have the feeling that it's more for some investors or for money or for anything. So I would say for citizens, it's really to be heard, what are their needs in the city, what are their approaches, and yeah, that they really get as a part of the planning process. For companies, it's well, depending on the company, but I think there are a lot of companies developing solutions. Either they know that it's a solution for the city market or for challenges of the city, or they might not even know yet. So for them, it is just a market. It is a huge market, and I'm not saying just a market to just make quick money. I hope by now we all understood that we need a sustainable change, or a sustainable way that we plan our cities, that we our whole system should be. But saying that we live in a sustainable environment, it is a big market of solutions. So either they have solutions that they can implement, that they can show in the Living Lab and say, hey, we can test them. Because sometimes you need to test them, and it's good for everyone. The city has someone who gives a solution that can be tested under surveillance of a neutral university, the science and the research. Then we can evaluate and see, does it work, does it not work. So this is, I would say, an incentive for companies. For university, I mean, for our university, it's, besides that we're really interested in the topic, it's money. We get money and we get paid. Believe in 4 Helix Living Labs. Well, yeah, I do. Like I said, we have citizens, company, industry. It's a transdisciplinary approach. We have all work together. Everyone can give something to this approach. I don't think that the university has to move in the city. Like in our case, we are pretty isolated, but what should be done is that the Living Lab has like a showcase or an office somewhere really in the city. This should be, for sure, really important. I hope I answered.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Yeah, I don't see any new questions in the chat box, so yeah, in my opinion, all questions were addressed. So I would like to end this session. Alex, is that correct?
Well, yes, we can wait one more second if anyone wants to unmute his or herself to ask a question or get a reaffirmation of something. We just wait for 20-30 seconds if someone speaks up.
Okay.
If not, we can end this session, I will use the time as well to thank all the presenters and also you, Bauke, for walking us through this great webinar. So thanks to all of you. Great job, well done. And I hope the participants, of which we had up to over 20, now there's only 14 left, it's Friday evening, will take a lot with them. So I hope it was all beneficial for all of you, and I'll now be quiet for about 10 seconds. If anyone wants to say something, then please do now or go into a happy weekend.
There was a question in the chat, Alex.
Yes, I'm just going down. It's like, okay, Katerina has a question. Have you okay, just one. Have you designed a measurable values for social impact, not just impression? I'm not sure what the SM is, Stavanger municipality?
Social media.
Social media? Ah. Thank you. I will just address this to all the three presenters. So whoever feels to answer this, please do.
Maybe I, from America, have the shortest answer. We are not making use of social media right now for our approach, the tenants' approach. We go for the more personal, direct communication.
Yes, also because you are actually in the homes of people. That's
yeah.
And maybe Kathleen, I think this is a question looking into your presentation that you might be a very valuable input to.
Yeah, for me personally it's difficult to answer, but I know they measure all the clicks and the views. So if you only viewed 3 seconds to one of the movies, it's a different measurement than when you look the whole for the 1 minute or the 1 minute and a half. And what the kind of effect is that people watch the movie, I've got no idea. I don't know if they measure that or how they measure it, but I know they measure all the clicks and all the stuff in the social media.
Okay, so the value you are measuring is the number of clicks and the numbers of persons reached.
Yeah, at the moment I don't think we, I'm not sure how you would otherwise measure social media. Is that an answer to your question, or?
Well, that's something only Katrina can answer, but I will also give Mike the opportunity to say something for this.
Yeah, well, in our case, well, yeah, with social media, it's the same. It's clicks, numbers of clicks, and how many visited pages or whatever. But we are designing this at the moment because we have a strong. Well, we want to answer this question of social impact because one of our research questions is how can we get younger people to participate in these processes? Not only younger people, also people who we say far from participation, because well, like immigrants, younger people, families, because what we see is mostly on this participation process, you have elderly people, a lot of these processes that we kind of observed, they were really 50 or 60 plus. So there we did a survey, we developed a survey, asked why are you here, what do you wish, what do you think is going to get out of this process, and how old are you? So we had from normal participation process kind of an overview, not representative, but just to get an idea of from what social group people come and what age. And we do the same, for example, when we do the testing with new technologies. For example, the 3D keynote is not yet, we did not yet do, but there, for example, we will see there's also an information event for citizens, but then with the new format. And then we'll see if we get more younger people, if we get other people in there. So we'll have a survey we ask simply, and age and social group is going to be something that's going to be interesting for us to know.
If I can add to that, I do know that they, like you said, Mike, that they do the, they know what group is clicking and seeing the movies, and they divide them in age group, gender, and I think, no, not immigrants, but age and gender. And then I think they can see for a certain movie, I think the cartoon, the most clicks or the most views were in the age group of women 35 between 45, and then after seeing the movie they went to the Triangulum information, the general European website. So if that is, if that's an interesting information from these, what you can measure, then I think it's quite effective.
Well, it seems that the questions have all been answered. So again, big thank you to all the presenters, to Bauke for walking us through, and also to all the participants. Well, hope to see you soon. For some of you in 2 weeks' time in Manchester, some of you maybe in the next webinars after the summer. Wish you all a happy weekend, and for those who don't see you anymore before the summer, happy summer break. Have a good time. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Happy weekend.
Thank you. Bye.